My name is Cole Richard, and here I'm giving a seminar on 5 things you should be doing to maximize your child's performance. And this is especially pertaining to the tennis field, but could pertain to anything. I'm using a lot of the talent code as a reference. So why listen to me? I've got a little bit of a history of, I'm a teacher. I have been a teacher, a high school teacher. I've also studied neuro-linguistic programming. I love sports psychology. And I've got experience in helping kids go from little young Rachel here on the left. She was 6 years old, and then she represented Middle State. So I have got a little bit of experience in taking a little one from totally zero to somewhere where she's accomplishing quite a bit. Information versus skills, and why this seminar. I really want you as a parent to have some skills leaving here so you would be able to help yourself and your child immediately. It's not too much information. Hopefully I'm giving you skills and not, as I said, too much information. We talk about ignition, which is a talent code reference. Ignition is when you light the desire in your child. And that's very important because desire is definitely more important than talent. The more desire they have, the rest will follow. We're going to talk about a thing called deep practice. Deep practice is a way of practicing that really accelerates the learning process, and really, in a way, it's a talent to learn. You got to learn how to choose coaches. You have to take an inventory of your resources, and you got to evaluate what is your goal and what are the child's goals. The talent code is a biological, it's a way of describing the biological process of creating a correct or perfect neural path in a sport, in learning a skill. Okay, and it kind of shows us that every type of incorrect repetition will actually, unfortunately, create a bad habit, and that will slow down your learning process, as it were. So the more you practice the right moves, the deeper the memory path. And it's how you practice. So the trick is to make the correct memory path, but to actually make it deep as possible and really accelerate the positives and try and eliminate the negatives. The secret to mastery is to never practice a mistake. When teaching somebody tennis, it's like folding a card. You know, when you fold a card, you want a card, a birthday card or a Christmas card or whatever the case may be to your parents, and you fold the paper and you may be a little bit careless in the beginning and it doesn't quite match up perfectly. You try and open it up again and refold it. Unfortunately, it never really is perfect again because it's already been folded in that one fold, the original fold. So the body is like that. We often say the body is like a computer, but unfortunately, we can't delete the hard drive. So any kind of bad habit that you do start, it's very difficult to get rid of. I personally believe in practicing each shot as perfectly as possible, and especially in the beginning, try and do it as slow as possible, and therefore everybody knows and sees what has been done. If you rush through and try to go through the shot very quickly, you'll pick up a lot of bad habits, and you will not recognize the fact that you're doing a bad habit until it's too late and there's a few thousand of repetitions already in the body, and then there's going to be a little bit of time to unlearn what you've done and do something correctly on top of that. Effortless grace. Effortless grace is when the body is totally relaxed and you're doing it correctly every time, and that is a process of repetition. Repetition is the mother of all skill. There's an aesthetic value to seeing somebody hit the ball well. It just looks good. It looks smooth. It looks relaxed. And that's what I'm trying to develop. That's why the use of video is very important for the coach and the student. It's a way of almost, in a way, getting an X-ray of the student in the beginning and actually see the progress. And sometimes to monitor possible injuries. And if there's an injury, you can actually head it off sooner than later. The student can also see ideal stroke patterns of pros and modeling on other people, which actually accelerates the learning process. Remember, video doesn't hide the truth. Seeing is believing. Now, deep practice versus just any practice. You don't just practice just to put in the repetitions. If you really practice with deep practice and have a deep intent, and sometimes deep practice involves a little bit of a struggle, because the more you struggle, it's like glue. It sticks the skill to the body. Deep practice is sometimes 3 times more effective than normal practice. So you actually get more out of per unit time using deep practice than any other practice. What is deep practice and how do we teach your child? Well, there's many different ways. First of all, you got to slow down. 1. 2, you got to really have an open mind and really truly absorb what is required. And 3, it's having the required ignition, meaning your child must have the interest, have the desire, and there must be a little bit of a struggle. They must always be reaching a little bit all the time, just a little bit out of their reach, but just enough to keep them interested. In fact, here's a graph taken from the talent code, which shows you that in a long-term commitment with a student, long-term commitment, and with the performance scale, a person is almost 4 times more successful of improved performance, especially on a high weekly practice rate and having a long-term commitment. What does that mean? It means that they really want to enjoy the process of getting good. They are not caught up in the short-term win. They really want mature-looking strokes. So that's a good idea. Now the others, it doesn't really matter, but there is still almost 3 times more success even in short-term committed versus long-term commitment. So here we're trying to really emphasize the fact that it has to be long-term. You have to force the child to have a long-term perspective and not get caught up in the short-term win. It's kind of like a teach a person to fish versus give them a fish and placate them. Here's a few things. Why is targeted mistake-focused practice so effective? This is directly from the talent code. It's because the best way to build a good circuit is to fire it, attend to mistakes, fire it again over and over. Struggle is not an option. It's a biological requirement. Remember earlier I said the more you struggle, the struggle is the glue that sticks the skill to the body. Why is passion and persistence key ingredients of talent? It's because wrapping myelin around a big circuit requires immense energy and time. If you don't love it, you'll never work hard enough to be great. And very often, this is just from the book too, it's always reaching. It's not just the same task where it's just so easy for you and you just keep on practicing. It must be a little bit out of reach. Your child must be struggling, just reaching for a target. It's always having a good target, a little bit out of reach. That is a very important part of deep practice too. Also, fear of mistakes. Please don't be afraid of making mistakes, but really see it as feedback. Don't see any kind of feedback as a criticism. Try and not frame it as criticism. Try and just give your child feedback. It's not good, it's not bad, it just is. This is what I saw. That's why the use of video is great. So when you see something that could be corrected, why don't you videotape your child, show them the video, don't say anything, and ask them, what do they see? Try and tell them to make as many mistakes as possible in the beginning. Learning by mistakes is the greatest way of learning, and try and get over the fact of them making mistakes. In our society, everybody's trying to be mistake-free. That is incorrect. Really try and make as many mistakes as possible, get it out the way, and so you can go forward with a good momentum, knowing the most efficient way of doing something. Fear actually slows down the rate of learning. Another thing, don't coach from the sidelines. Please, as a parent, you will distract and confuse your child. Auditory, when your child is listening to you, it takes attention away from other centers of the brain, takes away from other awareness, and in fact, your child will not perform as well. 2, now the child has 2 authority figures. Please keep your mouth quiet, wait for another opportunity, and just suggest to the coach or suggest to your child later, but please don't coach from the sidelines. It really slows down the whole system. The problem is, if you are a parent and you become an irreplaceable part in the child's coping mechanism of learning something, it undermines the child's sense of self-worth and enjoyment. Because in fact, you and the child are a team playing this game, and it's not the child. So in fact, they don't sense a sense of accomplishment because it's a team effort and not them alone. And sometimes you need to give them something. It has to be their sense of self. You have to be outside the system and support the system and not be inside and micromanaging everything. Yes, there might be a short-term benefit because you see from a mature perspective, but unfortunately, you undermine everything. If we were to diagram the talent code, it would look like this. There is master coaching in the beginning to start off ignition and is to initiate deep practice. But the child will be doing a lot of deep practice and then the talent will be manifested. We really want to get the child to feel empowerment and to feel a sense of accountability for their own strokes. Remember, it's their strokes, it's their body. It's not our strokes, it's not our body. So yes, we want to help them, but remember, it's their life. Teach them to be accountable for their own strokes, for their own life. It's a great mini environment to teach them about life. So in some ways, it's great to teaching them to be a little bit more independent and to have some conflict resolution by themselves and to just resolve some issues by themselves. It's great. Get kids to take action or voice repeatedly that their own desire to take tennis lessons. Try and create situations where they are moving in the direction you want them to move into. Don't always push them into the sport. You must create situations where kids have to move towards their goal and indicate to you that they want to do this for themselves. So sometimes you say, oh, maybe we won't do tennis today, and try and see if a child will step up and move in the direction you want them to take. Sometimes taking them away. You know, remember, kids are like puppies. The more you chase them, the more they'll run away. But the more you run away and just take back a bit, the more they'll chase after you. Get the children to realize that their strokes and games are their responsibility. To really help them to remember, if they ask you for help, tell them you know what to do. Empower them. Give them scripts. I trust you'll find a way to fix it. You always have. You're savvy. You're clever. You know, give them positives. Compliment them at the same time. How to motivate kids. First of all, as I said before, take it away. If they really love it, sometimes give it to them sporadically, intermittent reinforcement. Let them beg to go to tennis. Compliment other children. If you see another child doing something that you really appreciate, compliment them. It's amazing what it does. And sometimes compliment somebody else's child to another parent, but within earshot of your child. It's incredible what that does to your children. Put it in front of them and then say no. You know, children love to do what they shouldn't be doing. So strangely enough, this is very indirect and reverse psychology, but put something very juicy in front of them and say don't touch. It is incredible what would happen. Motivational events are a great way. What is that? The US Open, any college tennis match, anything on TV, anything that indirectly you will show appreciation to. Your children will be interested to know what you like, and that's a great way to motivate them. I hope you enjoyed the seminar, and I look forward to being able to give you more on this subject and more. Really, to buy the talent code, it's a great investment for you as a parent and for you as a coach, because he has given a lot of good ideas into the whole framework of the talent code, and it's a good book. It helps you to teach you what to say to your child. It definitely saves time. It saves you money, because the knowing how to develop talent is a fantastic thing. And it helps you answer some of the questions of other sports at the same time. Was it good versus bad? You know, those kind of things. It also helps you with injury prevention. You know, with deep practice, it really helps you determine what things are good, what things are bad. And with a good coach using deep practice, your child could definitely do anything that they want. Remember, you've also got to recognize good coaching. You've got to know what to look for and try and see if that coach understands and is keeping current. Remember, there are also 5 terrible pitfalls that parents fall into, which is another seminar which I want you to try and see. It's on another video in the series. So thank you very much. I hope you had fun. If you want to learn anything else, you can go to philadelphiatennislessonsandclinics.com, and there will be more about all these little things that I've told you, and a lot of videos about a lot of different subjects. Thanks very much. Bye.